And yeah, with that, we will get started with our first official session of our November one-day summit, Healing Through Somatic Attachment Therapy. My name is Allison, and I'm your host for this session. And our class this morning is How to Help Repair Insecure Attachment Using Movement with Dr. Aimie Apigian. Dr. Aimie Apigian is a double board certified medical physician, boarded in both preventative and addiction medicine, and with a double master's degree in biochemistry and in public health. She's the leading medical expert on stored trauma in the body and developed the biology of trauma protocols, which she teaches in her certification course for practitioners. She has personal experience in foster parenting, adopting, and then having her own health crash. In addition to her medical studies that have included functional medicine certification, she sought out trauma therapy training since 2015, including somatic experiencing and neuroaffective touch. She bridges the two worlds of functional medicine and trauma therapy to accelerate the healing journey by addressing the biology of trauma. So we're thrilled to have you here with us, Dr. Aimie. We will let you take it away.
Thank you, Allison. I appreciate that introduction and welcome to each of you. I'm very much looking forward to our time together. And my journey, I want to say that my trauma journey started in 2008. But today I want to take you back to the summer of 2009. And it's July, Southern California, so it's a hot day, and I have just been outside with my adopted son, Miguel, and we are sweaty. It's sticking to our skin because we've been out running around, doing our exercise and throwing a ball around. He's a very active 5-year-old. He arrived in my life, in my heart, in my home a year ago when he was 4, and I have since adopted him. And we're coming in and we are going to do our cuddle attachment time, something that I've been told that I need to do. The therapists have told me that I need to do attachment bonding because of his early life experiences and helping to have him feel safe to open up to me to start to heal some of the experiences that he went through before arriving in my home. He had had a very rough first 4 years of his life. And so I cuddle him up, wrap him up. I enjoy these times. And we're in a rocking chair. And so I'm holding him just like I would, kind of like holding a newborn, an infant. And so he's laying across my lap. His arm is in the crook of my elbow here. And I'm just rocking. It's a very slow, calm, comfortable pace. And I'm looking in his eyes. And there'll be times when I kind of wipe the sweat from his face that's still pouring out from just being outside. And there's the difference, the contrast in our skin as he is Hispanic. And he has mentioned this before of just, Mom, like we've got very different colors of skin. Yes, Miguel. Yes, we do. And yet it matters more what's inside. And you have my heart, and that's what's most important. And so today I've got the soft eyes and I'm looking into his eyes, and what came out of his mouth next was not something that I was prepared for. Because he calmly tells me, Mommy, tomorrow I'm going to kill you. Like my heart literally stopped and then sank. Tried to hide any change in my expression on my face. I'm not sure how best to hide the shock that I felt. Without words, I just tried to pick up the pace again for rocking. And he says, Mommy, tomorrow I'm going to kill you. And when we go out to play tomorrow, I'm going to pick up sticks and I'm going to poke your eyes out. But not today, Mommy. Tomorrow. And the weight of his words coming out of a 5-year-old where this was clearly a part of him that felt this way. And if I have to be honest with you, he had already tried to kill me. I had already had to lock up all the knives and any sharp objects in the home. Already had to put in some things around the house so that I always knew where he was and I could keep myself safe and know that I was at least physically safe with my son. But it was more than disappointment. It wasn't disappointment. It was feeling lost, because I have done everything that the therapists have told me to do. I have done the play therapy. We've done the EMDR. We're doing the attachment stuff. I've got him on a good diet. I've got him out exercising every day. Sure, things weren't perfect. I mean, I was in medical school, and so my time was not constantly with him. But with all the other things that I'm doing, the consistency, the love, the kindness, what am I missing? I had thought that with everything that I could do for him, including my love, but all of these other things too, at least that the experts were telling me that I needed to do, I had thought that he would be able to rise above his childhood and feel safe to open up and to love. And so it was a very lonely moment for me, because I couldn't go to my friends. I couldn't go to mom groups and be like, hey, so what do you do when your son tells you that he wants to kill you? That wasn't what their children were telling them. They were dealing with temper tantrums over not wanting to put their shoes on, but not, mommy, I want to kill you. I couldn't go to my colleagues, couldn't go to my experts in the medical field. And I was at Loma Linda, one of the, they had some great child psychiatrists and great child therapists. And yet what they had told me to do was not working. So I couldn't go to them. They wouldn't either believe me or understand. And to hold Miguel in that moment and to look in his eyes, he had brown eyes, very beautiful brown eyes. And I'm looking in his eyes, and I can see behind those words, I can see his pain. I can see the pain, the attachment pain, that he also felt so lonely, even while I'm holding him, that he also felt lost because he hadn't found himself yet. He also felt so broken that he thought that there was no hope, that this is how it would always be. And he was just trying to survive. And so here we are, one adult, one child, one mom, one adopted son, and yet both feeling very alone, lost, and broken. And I looked in his eyes. I did not say this in the moment, but there was an internal shift in myself and a commitment. And that commitment was, Miguel, I'm going to do everything I can to find you help. I'm going to do everything I can to see, what am I missing here? What else do you need that I have not been able to give you? Because this is not who you are, and this is not who I want you to be the rest of your life. And it wasn't an overnight miracle. It took another 4.5 long years of me studying, trying things, figuring out what were the pieces that I was missing. And one of the big pieces that I found that was missing was around movement and what I would like to call neurodevelopment, or the actual development of our nervous system that becomes our foundation. I'm sure that many of you here have studied a lot of other things about attachment. So I don't want to go into those things for you. I want to bring to you this one piece that is just one piece of attachment. It is not the whole thing, but it's one piece, but it is such an important piece. And it is a piece that is often missed or not understood, and so left out. And with it, there comes a lot of hope. So I'm going to share with you how movement and neurodevelopment not only is connected to attachment, but is part of our path to secure attachment. Whether we're working on ourselves, because yes, I realized, oh my goodness, I've got some insecure attachment trauma patterns, and I've got to work on these. So whether you're working for a better life for yourself or you're working with someone else, this is going to be a piece that can bring so much hope and a new tool for you. So that's what I'm here to share with you, is a new tool for movement and neurodevelopment today. When I look at the big picture of neurodevelopment and attachment, and let me share my screen so that you can see the big picture here. Give me just a second to pull this up. So movement and attachment, the piece I'm going to share with you today. We're actually going to do some experiential stuff, some interactive stuff, how you give it a try and see what happens. And this was Miguel, still when he was 4 years old. And this was 2 months into after he had come into my home, my heart, and my life, as I like to say. So with neurodevelopment, this is a piece of attachment. And this is how I see it play a role in everything. So neurodevelopment, which includes movement, patterns, rhythm, relationship, connection. So that would be the attunement and the capacity for that relationship, and the biology. These are the three things that together form our internal regulation, which becomes our degree of secure attachment. Now, what I find and what I found is that most people are focused on that relationship and that connection piece, which is what we were doing. And for Miguel, for myself, for many others, it wasn't enough because we were missing these two other pieces. Now, if you know me, you've been around me at all, you know that all of what I do is around this biology of trauma. But I'm not here to talk to you about the biology of attachment today. Today, I'm going to focus on the neurodevelopment and how that, the movement or the lack of movement, the movement patterns or the lack of movement patterns shaped and formed our degree of internal regulation when we were very young. And so how that became our attachment. And this is a piece then to rewiring and repairing attachment and regulation. Internal regulation becomes our attachment. This is how I explain this in my courses. So we have the attunement on one side, that's the relationship. And I'm sure many will talk today about that relationship piece of attachment. But then you have this whole autonomic regulation. And yes, the co-regulation that is involved in that can come from the relationship. But there is more that goes into the autonomic regulation than just co-regulation or the parent providing that regulation for a child who's upset. So neurodevelopment, biology, and the relationship, all three of those go into creating the autonomic regulation and your degree of autonomic regulation so that you could see yourself and be like, where am I on this graph in terms of my internal sense of regulation coming out of what I'm going to show you guys is actually coming out of 6 months of life. That is the key moments, the key time when our degree of internal regulation is going to most influence our sense of attachment, which means security, and our sense of safety in life with ourselves, with other people. And so it's not an all or nothing. It's not a black or white. It's where are you on this graph? Where are you on, if we want to call it a spectrum? Here's another spectrum. Where are you on the spectrum of attachment? We've tended to want to do, categories of attachment and labels for attachment, which can be helpful, but it doesn't paint the whole picture of where are you on that degree of attachment. But certainly the more attunement that you have and the more autonomic regulation, autonomic referring to, of course, your autonomic nervous system, so your body, not your central nervous system, which is your brain and your mind, your body's regulation, the more healthy, secure, and a sense of safety that there will be for you coming out of childhood. And so again, let me just go back to give you this big picture. There are three things that form that degree of internal regulation. Three things. Neurodevelopment, that's what I'm going to focus on today. Give you that piece of it, which a lot of that is movement. So we're going to do some movement today. And then, yes, there is the relationship, there is the connection, there is the attunement, the co-regulation and one's capacity for that relationship. I'm going to let others address that today so that I can just focus on the movement piece for you today. And then there is the biology of attachment. In fact, I'm right now leading a group of people through a journey into their attachment and neurodevelopment, where we're going into the biology of it, the neurodevelopment, and how do we actually repair and rewire that. But those are the three things that go into forming our internal regulation and thus our attachment, because our attachment is the combination of attunement and regulation. Key concepts for today. And so I want to make sure that we have this big picture, because this is what forms then all of our life. This is what formed all of Miguel's behaviors. His neurodevelopment had been very off. He hadn't had the opportunities to do the movements and the patterns, or to do them in a way that during which he felt safe. When he was, reported to CPS, and he had his medical evaluation, it was found that he had a collarbone fracture that had never been evaluated. That had happened around before 9 months of age, because that's when he was first reported to the CPS. Well, if you're a young infant and you've had a collarbone fracture, there is no way that you are doing the movements that are needed for healthy neurodevelopment. That's an extreme example. I'm going to go into the other common examples that happen today of even baby bouncers and baby carriers that inhibit the movements that are needed for healthy neurodevelopment. But then you have what becomes our adaptation and our attachment style. So how are we adapting to our environment? And that becomes our attachment style. And then on a cellular level, there are biology factors that actually predispose us to being more dysregulated, and thus to having an insecure attachment or attachment trauma. And this is our foundation, because these then determine our capacity for life, our capacity for stress, our capacity for grief, our capacity to navigate change in our life, our capacity to be present for each other, present for ourselves, present for our life. Are we taking ownership of our life? Not if we have these attachment patterns that hold us back, because leaning into life is not safe from a place of internal dysregulation from early in life. So I'm just going to pause right there because I know that I've shared a lot. And before we go into the specifics, let's just see, what have you gotten so far? What new insight have you had so far? And just type that in the chat. This is not a time for me to take questions because I do want to really jump into the meat and the movements and have us experience this. But what new insights have you had so far? Dana is saying that loving someone is not enough. Oh, Dana, like I have a visceral response when you type that. Yes, I thought that my love would be enough to help him rise above his childhood. We've got some curiosity going on. I love that, Christina. I love curiosity. Sally never knew about the importance of movement. Oh, Sally, just wait. Like we just wait. We have not even tapped into the importance of movement, and movement can be so healing. Yeah. Trisha, you're grounding yourself, in my experience, inspired. And Karen, yes, we are not going to talk so much today about the cerebellum, but definitely the pons level. It's where I'm going to focus most of my time today, is helping you guys see and understand pons level and give you guys some tools. Yeah. Great. All right. So thank you for your responses. This is interactive. Again, if you know me, this is going to be a conversation. This is not a me talking to you. This is going to be a conversation that we're going to have, and we're going to actually try some of the movements and the experiences today. So let's start with in utero. What is happening in utero? And for right now, we're going to just turn off the chat. Thank you for your responses. What happens in utero that starts to form our nervous system? I know this is a silly question, right? Because you guys know that, well, the whole nervous system has to be developed in utero. You are literally coming from two cells coming together. There is no nervous system yet, right? And so all of a sudden you have two cells that merge, and it has to grow from two cells to a baby. That is the miracle of what happens in utero. And one of the very first things that we can see on ultrasound, guess what? Is your nervous system. It's one of the very first things that develops, which is also why fetal alcohol syndrome or even drinking can harm a nervous system, and a mom doesn't even know that she's pregnant yet. That's how early our nervous system starts to develop. And so creating the environment that is ready for fostering this growth and this creation is really important, because the nervous system is the very first thing to start developing. Why would it be the first thing to start developing? Well, because our nervous system is what keeps us alive. Our nervous system is our survival system. And so we literally cannot go into the development of our nervous system without that early formation. And it's a formation of organizing. So the nerve cells actually like internally decide what type of nerve cell they're going to be and where they need to migrate to. Where are they going to migrate to? So this is all happening, and you start to see it as a ribbon in utero. Now, what is fascinating is the movements then that we start to see in utero. Did you know that when a mom feels her baby kick, that's actually baby having a startle response? So starting in utero, we start to have a startle response. The arms come out, the legs kick out, and that's what mom feels as a kick. That startle response. Now, the startle response does not need to be connected or in reaction to anything happening outside, because sometimes that startle response just is happening as part of the normal nervous system development. We're just trying things out, right? Because we got to be ready to be born into this world where there's danger and there's threat, and we gotta survive. So we're gonna try this startle response out. And it's kind of the same thing as when you're falling asleep and your body jerks, like it's your nervous system just kind of like, whoo, have a little wake up moment there. So baby in utero is starting to have startle responses, and we feel their kick. We start to feel their movements. But even in utero, you'll start to see their hands. And this is what their hands will look like this. And so, yeah, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and put your hands up. Your thumbs will actually be tucked into your fists. They'll be resting underneath so that they're actually touching your face. Yeah, exactly. And your face, your head tucks down a little bit. Exactly, because there's not much room in utero, if you hadn't noticed. They're a little cramped. So yeah, head is tucked down, and it's this really safe feeling of being just tucked in. Oh, see, I even get a deep breath with this. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, some of you are getting that as well, Sharon. I saw that. So your head is tucked down. And then what happens is that you open up, so you lift your head a little bit and your hands switch places. And you just tuck down again. And you stay here for as long as you want, because each baby has their own rhythm. And when they are ready, when you are ready, same thing. And I just got another deep breath. I feel a settling in my stomach. It really softened up. And so for me, I feel that I'm ready for the next movement. So I'm just going to lift my head a little bit, switch my hands again, and go back down. And we'll just stay here for another couple rounds. And I invite you to just explore what is happening in the rest of your body when you do this. For some of you, it may not be a comfortable thing. And if that's the case, do not feel the need to stay with this. You can certainly pull out. I would not want you to experience discomfort or certainly anything triggering or unmanageable. If it's uncomfortable, you can decide whether you want to sit with it or no, just pull out. And if you pull out, just invite you to do orienting, just looking around your room. But if you're staying with it, again, just find your own rhythm now. Don't need to follow me, just find your own rhythm. And notice what you're experiencing. Notice what you're experiencing. And then slowly come out of it. I did say slowly, so you decide how you want to come out of it, but let's do it slowly. Let's give our bodies a transition. I would love to hear in the chat, what did you experience? What was your experience? Again, there's no bad experiences, right? So it is what it is. But what was your experience? Yeah, let me open up the chat here. There we go. Uneasiness, yeah. Some of you noticed some discomfort. Some of you noticed that, no, I felt calmer. Catherine was like, I didn't want to change hands. I just wanted to stay right there. Oh, Gulindam, your shoulders became relaxed when they are normally always closed. Interesting. Oh, Jana, you wanted sugar. Isn't that interesting? Oh my goodness, all of these very interesting experiences. Hannah, you felt your breath getting deeper, and then you felt yourself becoming tired, which I could be wrong, but that sounds like the beginning of your freeze or trauma response. Mary had a release and then tears. What is interesting for me, and I really want to point out, is how different everybody's experiences is with this. And I love that, right? Because for me, it reinforces this concept that it's not a black or white thing. It's not was this comfortable or not comfortable? Attachment is not a black or white thing. It's just a where are you? Where are you? Stephanie went into rocking with that. Yeah. If this was uncomfortable in any way or brought up stuff, this is something that I would not want you to further explore right now, right? Just kind of, isn't that interesting? We're going to put that up on the shelf. And when the time is right, we will come back to it. But it doesn't need to be today. And whatever your experience is, I would love for you to just be in that curiosity space of, isn't that interesting? Like for those of you who had some significant experience, tears or release or sadness or anything, isn't that interesting? Isn't that so interesting that just going into this position would bring up such a visceral response in your body? This is how these experiences get wired into the memory of our nervous system. And so I'd love for you to just take a minute right now and write down your experience. Again, if you know anything about me, you know that my goal is to always just have you learn one new thing about your system today. And whether that was, ooh, I felt this, or even if it's, I felt nothing. Either one of those is learning something about your nervous system. So I'm going to give you 1 or 2 minutes here to just write down what you just experienced, what you just learned, and any new insights that came up for you around that. And while you do that, I'll just play a little song for you, one of my favorite songs. Give you some music while you do a little self-reflection and journaling.
I am dropping down to the truth of who I am. I am dropping down, surrendering in love. I am dropping down to the truth of who I am. I am dropping down, surrendering in love. I am dropping down to the truth of who I am. I am dropping down, surrendering in love.
So you guys are getting to learn a lot about me today and my style, because I use a lot of Karen Drucker's music in my work. Karen and I have connected over the last year. She has given me all of her music to be able to use anywhere that I teach. And so I use her music a lot. So that is Karen Drucker. And specifically, that song is called Dropping Down. Let's keep going, because now we're at the birth stage. So what happens when we are born? What happens when we are born? What change happens? What change specifically happens in our nervous system? There's both a significant change and no change at all. The significant change is that we have never had to take our own breath before. Exactly. We've never had to take our own breath before. So that's the huge change that happens in our nervous system in that moment. Our heart has been beating, so that doesn't change. We already can feel things. We can feel the pressure. We can feel touch. We can feel, we can hear. So those things don't change. What changes is, for the very first time, we have to take our own breath. Isn't that fascinating to think about that? That we've never had to breathe before? Like we just we breathe so automatically that we don't ever think that there was a moment in time when I had to take my very first breath, or I would die. I would have never been alive. So our breath. Now, with that, yes, comes all of this sensory input from the world. When we were in utero, could we hear? Yes, we could hear. And there are so many studies on the type of music that you play gets wired into the memory of our nervous system. Isn't that fascinating? So we know that babies can hear in utero, but the sound is rather dampened down, right? Like the sound is having to go through skin and then all that water in the uterus, and then it's getting into our system. So it's dampened down, and all of a sudden, nothing is dampened down. And whether it's noise, whether it's light, whether it's touch, everything is now supercharged on a whole new level than what we have ever experienced before. That's what happens the moment we are born. How do we manage that? So this is where we're at. We've talked about in utero. Now we're talking about birth. And this birth starts this first 0 to 6 months, which a lot happens there. A lot happens there in our development of our nervous system and attachment. Both are happening at the same time. And so this, right, is the foundation. This right here becomes our foundation. Did we experience regulation in a world that would have been very dysregulating without safety? And so as you look at this picture, regardless of what your experience has been, what comes up for you? I'm not quite going to open up the chat yet because I want us to just think about this again for another second. And in fact, let me share my screen again so that you can take a look. And try to stay out of the picture and just looking into the picture, right? What do you think is the experience of this baby? It's easy for us to be like, oh, I didn't have that, and go into grief and our own story. We're not going to go into our own story right now. We're going to just look in on this moment that this picture captured. What is this baby appearing to experience, at least in this moment? There are many elements that are happening right here. One is that baby's front side and stomach is completely protected. Did you know that your stomach area is your most vulnerable area? In our chest, we have ribs. So ribs are a bony protection for us. They protect our lungs, they protect our heart. There is no protection for our stomach. That is the most vulnerable area of our body. And this baby is getting to experience the sense of protection of their most vulnerable area. But not only that, but there's this hand of support on the baby's back. Without that feeling of support on the back, especially, a baby will have the felt experience of, I'm not supported. I can't fully trust and lean into this. When you see a baby being held out, where they're actually mom or dad is holding their head and their back is up along their arms, there's all that support on their head, their neck, their back. Baby has no fear of falling if that support is in place. No fear. And yet they're dangling over the floor, if you think of it. No fear dangling over the floor because they've got that support. And so this felt sense of support on the back is wiring into this baby's nervous system in this moment. I've got you. I've got you. Powerful to wire that into the memory of our nervous system. So I love that this mom has her hand on the baby's back while stomach is also being protected. And baby has its ear up against mom's chest on the side that her heart is. So baby is literally being able to listen to the rhythm of mom's heartbeat. The rhythm of mom's heartbeat informs baby if mom is scared or not. Does mom feel safe? I don't know. Let me check into her heartbeat. No, mom's heartbeat is good. It's nice. It's a comfortable rhythm. I know that I am safe because mom is safe and mom's got me. That is attachment. I know that I am safe because my mom is safe and my mom has me. She's got me. So as long as she is safe, I am safe. And that's how they know. They pick up on our temperature. They pick up on our heartbeat. They pick up on our facial expressions, even the pupil size in our eyes. That's why a baby or a young child will look first to mom when something happens, like a loud siren. And the first thing that they do is look at mom. Why? Because if mom is scared, I know that I need to be scared. But if I look at mom and, oh, mom is not appearing to be stressed at all, oh, then that noise of that fire truck or that noise of that dog barking is not something that I need to be concerned about either. I am safe because my mom is safe and my mom's got me. This is informing the development of our nervous system. So this is the proper way to hold young babies. It is not facing outward. What would be the experience of a baby facing outward? That would be different from this baby facing inward. And with this, I am going to open up the chat and type in your answers. What would be the difference in the experience of a baby facing outward in a baby carrier then this baby. Mom doesn't got me. Fear. Oh, you guys, you are spot on. Very overwhelming and scary. The stomach is vulnerable. Yes, you are on your own, exposed. You're not hearing their heartbeat. And it's hard for them to turn around to look at mom's face or dad's face or whoever's carrying them. Very lonely, very, right? And yet a parent thinking that this is what I'm supposed to do because they're telling me that I'm supposed to use these baby carriers and they're going to be bored just looking at me. So I need to turn them around and have them face the world. No, absolutely not. They are flooded with sensory information that overwhelms their system. And we know that the definition of trauma is anything that for any reason at that time overwhelmed us. Anything. Being in a baby carrier, anything that for any reason, which in this case would be just the overwhelm of everything, the sensory and the lack of felt experience of being protected and someone's got me, for any reason that at that time, because at that time we needed a greater degree of protection. We needed a greater degree of containment. That at that time overwhelmed our body's ability to process what was happening. Exactly, Paul. They can't smell mom. They can't see mom. They can't hear mom's heartbeat. And we don't have time to go into this, Jennifer. We don't have time to go into the difference between the parents, but in the early ages, it's mom. It's mom. But again, maybe someone else will be able to go into that. I'm supposed to stick with movement. So let's get to the movement piece. So the movement piece, the first movement that a baby does is while they are on their tummies. Don't know if you guys know this. Here is the whole neurodevelopment. So this is a big graph. You're not going to be able to see this. That's the point, is to show you just how big this neurodevelopment process is. But in the very beginning, we start down here with the medulla and the spinal cord. That has to be developed before a baby is born, or else they won't survive life. But then we get to pons, and pons is the first 1 to 5 months of life, 1 to 6 months of life, and they develop certain things. And let's go into that. So medulla, spinal cord, what's going to happen? Well, they're going to be able to have their cry. They're going to have their grasp reflex. They have their startle reflex. All of these things happen in utero, so that these are developed in utero. The movement of limbs, right? They don't have any body movement. They can't move in utero, but they can move their limbs in utero. So that's what's developed with the medulla and the spinal cord. But let's focus on the pons, because that's where there are a lot of gaps or injuries in some cases that happen. And there's so much that we can do to repair that. So pons, 1 to 5 months of life. This is where the time of life that their nervous system is forming the ability to see clearly. Because up until then, they actually can't see clearly. It's fuzzy. It's fuzzy. So the closer that they are to mom's face, the better they can see her face, because everything else is a little fuzzy. And it's fascinating to see that the outline of a face is their most favorite thing to look at as a baby. The outline of a face is the most interesting thing for them. And that's why they want to explore your face, and they want to yank your nose off and take your glasses, because they're fascinated with the outline of a face. And yet so often we're facing them outward to the world, not to our face, or we're putting something in their hands, electronics, and they're not getting that facial time that they need. The pons time is also when they are developing horizontal eye movement. So back and forth, not vertical, up and down, but horizontal, which will be critical for when they start to read later on. And so for kids who have reading problems where it's the tracking of their eyes, they need to come back and do some pons level work. Pons is also our survival system for our vital needs. So this is responding to sounds, the sensations of cold, heat, hunger, pain. Your vital sensations because this is what will either keep you alive or you're not going to make it. And now the body movement comes into place while they're on their tummy. So this is what tummy time looks like, which helps to develop the pons level. Let me say that very clearly. Tummy time is the biggest thing that helps develop our pons level of neurodevelopment. First 1 to 5, 1 to 6 months of life. And pons just refers to the next level up in our brain stem. So tummy time is what's going to help this baby feel correctly their sensations of heat and cold and hunger and pain, so that when I'm working with someone now and they tell me, because I ask, right? I do all these assessments for helping know their nervous system. And I ask, how is your sense of hunger? Do you feel hungry? And it's very insightful when they share, funny that you ask, because, like I know that it's not funny that I ask, but they don't know this. Funny that you ask, because I don't feel that I'm hungry until I am so hungry I'm starving. Oh, yeah. Isn't that interesting? And then I do a little check mark, right? Because, okay, think we have some pons level work to do. Well, what about heat? What about cold? Oh, yeah. Like I'm either so sensitive, or I can go out on a winter day in shorts and seem to be fine, and everybody else is really cold. Can you feel your body's sensations? I have literally seen people who finish a race on a broken foot because they don't feel pain very well. They don't feel their body. This is what's developed in the pons level of neurodevelopment that happens on our tummy. So look at this baby. And what do you notice happening? What do you notice happening? There's a lot that's happening here. So let's look and see what all is happening. This is a very important development here. Yes, this is neurodevelopment, but this is also attachment, you guys. Because as this baby is propping themselves up on their arms, guess what they're doing? They are opening themselves up to the world. Their chest is opening up to the world, and yet look at their tummy. Their tummy is still protected, meaning they feel safe while they are opening up to the world. They're not opening up and feeling scared. They are opening up in a way that they feel safe opening up, which is why then they can experience the joy and that moment of what's going on, because they feel perfectly safe while they open up to the world. This is where a lot of the spine develops its curves as well, so that our posture is one that naturally will promote a felt sense of safety. So this tummy time and this moment here is what allows a baby to develop the memory in their nervous system that it is safe to open up to the world. It is safe to open up to the world. It is safe to open up to the world. And I'm curious, where do you feel that you're on that spectrum of feeling safe to open up to the world? that you can know when it is safe to open up to someone. And you're not just opening up to everybody, but that with safe people, it feels very safe to open up to the world. Because that was part of your neurodevelopment and that memory. I'm going to share one more thing about this PONS level, and then we're going to do another exercise. Is this helpful so far, you guys? Let me just check in. Okay. I'm getting thumbs up. I'm getting nods. This is helpful. Because I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to be teaching you something that's not helpful. I'm going to share my screen to share with you. Let me see. Yeah, that would be the one other thing that I would want to share about this. So looking back at this picture, we can see the beginning of what will be movement. Right now, this baby is not moving. They're just propping themselves up. So yes, in a sense, that's movement, but that's not like movement down the floor. But they're getting ready for that. And I want you to look at their legs. You can only see the left leg. But what I see, but then again, like I look for these things because when I have people, right now going on a journey into attachment and neurodevelopment, I have them get on the floor and I have them do a tummy crawl. And the tummy crawl starts with digging their toes into the floor. Their arms are reaching out to the world. Oh, what an exciting world. And yet their power doesn't come from their upper body. Their power comes from their feet, up through their legs, their hips, and then their movement in life. So for those people who struggle with movement in life, we go back to this stage of neurodevelopment. And when I have them do a video and share their video with me, the most common thing that I see in a tummy crawl video are people using their hands and their arms to try to move themselves forward. They don't realize that they have legs that they could use. And when they realize this, like everything starts to make sense in their life. That, I just feel like I'm always just working so hard and moving so little forward in life. And I'm fighting for myself, right? And we fight with our arms. We fight with our upper body. And even with our upper body, our shoulders become really tense and up. That's what happens in a PONS level development when a baby at this age is experiencing body sensations that are so uncomfortable, they need to cut them off. And they cut them off by pulling their shoulders up. In fact, try that with me right now. Let's just bring our shoulders up. And now I want you to notice, pay attention, put your attention on your body. So whether it's your stomach, your legs, your feet, put your attention there, keeping your shoulders up. And now slowly drop your shoulders, slowly drop your shoulders. And now put your attention on that same place. Are you able to notice and feel it more with your shoulders down? So shoulders up is a way that we block the thoracic inlet and cut sensations off. And we live in our heads with all of the anxieties. I'm sure you guys know nothing about that. Absolutely nothing about that. And when we are feeling safe, when our bodies are starting to feel safe to drop those shoulders, ooh, the sensations from our body can start coming up again, which is why some, if we're early on in our journey, ooh, those shoulders have to come back up. That feels too much. And if I feel too much, I'm going to fall apart. If that's your belief system, if those are thoughts that you've had, that is one way to know that you did not get this tummy time organization, the tummy crawl organization, in the first few months of life. If I let myself feel, I might fall apart. Because that's what it would have been at that age. If I feel, I'm actually going to die. And so we start bracing. We brace by bringing our legs up and bracing with our hips and our psoas muscle. And we brace with our shoulders to cut off the thoracic inlet. We cut off the pelvic inlet and we cut off the thoracic inlet so that we don't feel too much. And so guess what? What do we do with that, right? Like, what do we do with that? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Because I'll share it with you. I'm so glad you asked. This is what we do. We get down on the floor on our tummy and we start exploring the felt sense of being on the floor, having our stomach protected. And this can take some time. So this isn't you're going to get on the floor for one time and everything's going to be rewired. No. This is going to be get on the floor. Maybe your body is going to tell you that it doesn't even feel safe to get on the floor. So then you just think about getting on the floor until your body is ready to get on the floor and get on tummy and see what that feels like. And then when it's ready, guess what you're going to do? You're going to start scooting yourself down the floor in the way that feels right for your body and letting your body reorganize those neural pathways so that eventually it will rewire and your source of power will come from being grounded, not from a superficial, high up place where you're fighting, but you're grounded and your source of power is coming from that. So with that, we're going to finish up with a short exercise and get on the floor. What? I know. I did. I just asked you to get on the floor. Now, I will say that the floor could also be a bed or a couch. So whatever is comfortable for your body. And if you have physical limitations and aren't even able to do that, that's fine too. And I would invite you to bring like a pillow and place your pillow in front of your stomach so that you're coming in and providing some contact with your stomach. Oh, Florian, I like that you're getting out your yoga mat. That's awesome. So as you get on the floor or bed or whatever you're going to do, take it slow. Like I love what I see some of you doing where you're just thinking about this first. You're letting your body get used to the idea that you're going to get on your belly. Take your time. And if it doesn't feel safe, then don't do it. But if you are able to do it, what a curious experience that you get to have. And we just get to explore. What does this feel like? And again, if it doesn't feel safe, what to do is you can bring in a pillow and just have contact with your stomach with a pillow rather than the floor. And that's a good first step if your body is like, oh no. Yeah, just explore. If you want to get up on your elbows, if you want to lay flat, just explore what your body wants to do and what happens when you do this. Let's learn something new. And I'll give you about 2 more minutes and I'll let you know. So just take your time. Let yourself lean into the experience. And again, if this feels too much, stop, right? Just you come up, sit down. There's nothing wrong with that. We want to stay in a manageable zone.
I am dropping down to the truth of who I am. I am dropping down, surrendering in love. I am dropping down to the truth of who I am. I am dropping down, surrendering in love. I am dropping down to the truth of who I am. I am dropping.
All right, and let's slowly start to pull ourselves out. Again, have a slow transition here. Slow transition.
I am dropping down to the truth.
A slow transition.
I am dropping down, surrendering in love. I am dropping down.
As you come back, I invite you to type in the chat. What was your experience?
I am dropping
What
down,
was your experience?
surrendering.
Tala, I love that big stretch. Yes. Oh my goodness, that looked delicious.
In love, surrendering in love.
And again, just notice how different everyone's experience is. So that would be my invitation. That if anything from this experience either helped you or you found it uncomfortable, emotionally uncomfortable especially, that maybe there's just some work to do here. And once a day, get on the floor, get on your tummy, and then when you're ready, move yourself down the floor. Figure out how to move your body down the floor, keeping your belly button on the floor, and help to start rewire this stuff. It doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, what happens is that in the process of doing it, the body and the mind will learn how to do that the right way. the right way, meaning it'll organize things. And with that, this concludes my time with you guys today. Thank you. I consider this a gift from you that you've given me your time and your attention. I receive that gift and thank you. Thank you.